Good afternoon, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty. Right from the get-go, I'm going to warn you, this is longer than 5 minutes. There's a reason for that. That is, I'm reviewing Blue and Green by Ram V. I've had his name kind of in the back of my head for a while, ever since reading Savage Shores. Really enjoying Many Deaths of Layla Starr, but the only thing I'm picking up is his Swamp Thing. And it was after reading that and then comparing my thoughts on it to this that I thought, let's talk about it. Because part of it comes down to the difference between doing a full creator-owned series, especially this where it's an OGN, like it's totally self-contained, although it's broken into parts, it's just in this book. Comparing that to Swamp Thing, a DC comic's been running for decades, that actually is the primary reason why noted comic book writer Alan Moore is famous in America. So that's like some weighty shoes to follow in the footsteps of. You can't do that kind of ongoing without realizing the history of the character and thinking that you are not going to be the last person to write it. And that kind of puts a writer in a very difficult situation. That's not to say I'm not enjoying Ram V's Swamp Thing, but I'm enjoying it in a very different way than I did Blue and Green. This one feels like somebody writing at the top of their game. And again, I've read Savage Shores, love it. Reading The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, it's fantastic. Swamp Thing is on my pull list. So I'm already a fan of Ram V. But his knack of just some of the best prose writing that I've seen in comic books for some time is something that's worth talking about. But I'm going to get to that in a second. First of all, we're going to talk about the actual story, which is playing on the idea of somebody who sold their soul at a crossroads kind of thing to become a famous musician. Robert Johnson, I think, is the name of the most famous person it's happened to. By the way, if you don't know who that is, actually genuinely go and research him. His life has a brilliant story to it anyway, and go listen to his music. He's amazing. But the idea that he had to sell his soul to the devil at a crossroads to become the musician that he actually was ties into a lot of kind of racist ideas of black excellence. Like there has to be a reason why. Quite often you see it along the lines of, well, that black person was allowed to become great in the white world, so they should be grateful and thankful for it. And if they couldn't do it, then there must be some other reason. It never just allows black excellence on its own. Now, that being said, some people actually play into that and can run with it and make that part of their own legend, and use that kind of trope against people. This is a story about a black musician, and there is certainly a devil figure involved in it. And I don't think it's any accident or lazy writing or just a slipshod approach. I think that the devil is clearly portrayed in a comic book overly packed with people of color as being a white character, not just white as in Caucasian, like uber white, like pale, ghostly kind of white. And because of the fact that it's written by Ram V and art by Anand RK, you can see that this is clearly not accidental. Other than that, they don't really play around with like any really obvious overt ideas of race playing into it. They just tell the stories that make sense to them, and they do it in such an immaculate way. I'm going to read you a little bit of the dialogue here. This is all like box out text in the middle of an excellent bit of artwork. The reason I'm reading out loud is I think great writing like this kind of needs to be done out loud. So bear with me. I tumble down eternal stairs and through a meaningless life, each step reaching for firm ground, but finding only disappointment, mediocrity. Every broken dream, the consequence of those first terrible steps. And every time she was there to tell me it was okay, that it was all I could expect from an ordinary life, that there was no shame in being insignificant. Isn't that just wonderful? That is just like excellently well phrased. I kind of want to at some point sit down and write that out like full length and try and pick up the rhythm and meter for it. Because one thing that, as I mentioned earlier, Alan Moore is known for is writing in almost iambic kind of rhythm. Obviously, I don't think he's going to worry about a meter too much, but it still shows like an absolute control of the language. And even without context, it's just a beautiful array of falling words. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Add that to, quite frankly, some of my favorite kind of art. I consider this kind of like a scratchy style, but I love it. But there's one thing which I've seen other artists do, and it bugs the ever-loving snot out of me. which is leaving guidelines in place. Now, I used to draw quite a bit when I was a younger man, and when I was at school and college, and even doing draftsman for being an engineer, that kind of thing was like kind of frowned upon. It showed like a lack of professional work or clarity to it, and sometimes I can see that, and you can see that working still in there, and it's not great. But I have absolutely turned around on the idea, because I think when you're talking about like a massively important 3-point perspective piece of artwork and you need everything to be right, I think showing you're working on it, if you can lay that out as like a layer of the artwork to it, you're going to just be impressed. Now, you might not be able to see all the guidelines in there, but trust me, there's a lot in there. But look at how beautiful that spiral is. It's genuinely amazing. And it's not even the only really cool bit of artwork. It's just the one I found which kind of showed off more what I wanted it to be. There's an excellent bit of New York from above, which plays around with starlight merging into the city lights, but the ocean around on the bay is almost pure black, showing like that depth and that use of negative space so effectively. And I'm okay. This is the first thing I've ever seen with the artwork for it. And if you think I'm joking about how good it is, just take a look at this double page. Now, it's not a splash. These are totally separate bits of artwork, and without context, it's kind of hard to explain why it matters. So I'm going to try not to increase this too much. But that kind of breakdown on this page of what looks to be kind of a standard 6-panel page, thrown apart and dismembered with a clearly uncomfortable face in there. And the splashes, again, like he uses this kind of very naturalistic coloring. And then we have the record, the LP on the other side, with the text flowing around it, the papers falling through from the middle, the scratchy stuff going around the outside. It's a level of detail which kind of is almost unnecessary, because he's showing more than it needs to be there. He's showing his work, and honestly, I was blown away by it. I've recently talked about, I've forgotten the guy's first name, Simmons, who does the artwork for Department of Truth, which is one of my favorite things I'm reading at the moment. It's a similar style to that, but because of the exceptional amount of work that goes into correctly displaying I'll say 3-point perspective, but not like single or 2-point perspective as well, the detail in there with that scratchy kind of style and the fully naturalistic coloring is mind-blowingly good. You've got a great story, superb prose, and some absolutely outstanding artwork. For the past few weeks, I've kind of been struggling to find that one cool thing that I've been reviewing that I really like. There's a lot of stuff that I like parts of, and I can talk about elements which grab me, but may not end up on my pull list because there's just not enough of it. There's not enough meat on those amazing bones. This is one of the first things I think I've read all year, which is just purely good. I have absolutely no negative things to say about this book. I've just seen that Mr. Patrick Jackson has commented that he just bought this today. So if you've not read it, you're in for an absolute treat. Tell all your friends about it. Make sure they go to a comic book store and pick it up. This is the last copy we've got because we keep selling out of it. I'm taking this home with me tonight. I'm going to run it through before we close for the day, which is only in a few minutes. And I'm going to go home and I'm probably going to read it again before the end of the weekend. It is honestly superb. And if I wasn't already a fan of Ram V and already picking up a lot of his work or reading stuff when I can, this would make me a fan of his completely. And the other stuff I mentioned in the past, go and read the Savage Wars, go pick up Swamp Thing. Death and Whale Star is absolutely fantastic. But honestly, potentially one of the best things I've read this year. And if it wasn't the fact that I generally read a whole bunch of stuff and see great things, maybe the best for a few years, but absolutely check it out. Anyway, as I said, I knew I was going to go over 5 minutes for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. Tell all your friends about it. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm going to be done for the week, though. I'll be back on Tuesday. Until I see you all again, stay safe, everyone. Bye.